Hello everyone, I hope you are having a fantastic day. Before we get started, I have a very important announcement. If you are subscribed to me, please hit that notification bell. Make sure your notifications are turned on so you can be notified whenever I... Great, not again. Hey y'all, I hope you really enjoyed that opening video. I really enjoyed filming it. But that is right, we are going to be reviewing today the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Bloodsport figure from the Suicide Squad movie. There's a lot of stuff to like about this figure, but there are some things that get on my nerves quite a bit, and I'm going to talk about those in the video. But without further ado, let's take a look at his accessories, starting off with his swords. And yeah, that's right, we don't get any of his guns. Thanks, Warner Brothers. Always putting the customer first. Warner Brothers seems to be giving EA a run for its money for the worst company ever. In all seriousness though, taking a look at these swords, they are solid, figuratively speaking. They're actually made out of a flexible material, and it did come warped out of the packaging, at least one of the swords did. But the sculpt and paint are done well enough here. Taking a closer look at the figure itself, when I first saw this design I thought to myself, that looks a lot like a xenomorph head, and better yet, we come to find out that that was heavily inspired by H.R. Giger's design of the alien. Overall, I think it's a really badass design, and it really adds to the cool factor of this character, which I knew nothing about going in. The sculpt of the figure is fairly accurate from the images I've seen of the costume in the movie, and the fact that I watched the movie myself. There is a lot of rubbery material in the midsection and in the diaper, quote-unquote, section of the figure. One thing you are going to notice, though, is that the colors seem a bit off. And by a bit, I mean quite a bit. The orange parts of the figure are very bright and seem to have no weathering on them whatsoever, which is no problem if you're a toy customizer. The overall sculpting is terrific, but the paint leaves a lot to be desired. This figure's articulation is a pleasant surprise all throughout. He can look up a good amount, look down and bury his chin into his chest quite a bit. There is some tilt for some personality in there as well. The figure can turn his head a full 360 degrees. The arms have a great amount of range to them, which is really needed with a character that is able to hold guns and swords and all types of weaponry. We love a good double-jointed elbow in here, don't we? The midsection of this figure is able to move surprisingly well, especially considering the fact that there's another rubber piece underneath the vest area of the figure, so that's quite impressive. The legs have a good amount of range as well, and that's due in part to the fact that there is a, again, quote-unquote diaper area. The rubber flexes and it gets out of the way. The double-jointed knees work well enough. He's not able to kick his own butt. Shout out, swoosh! Now, the ankle articulation isn't the best. For some reason, it has these like detents or ratchets that just don't allow it to get the right standing position sometimes. That's been a problem with McFarlane Toys figures, and it doesn't have the best ankle pivot. Not to my standards, no. That toe articulation, though. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot there is a butterfly joint. Oops. And we are nearing the end of the review. See, reviews don't have to be 15-20 minutes long. Here we have him next to the McFarlane Toys Harley Quinn figure, a fellow figure from the Suicide Squad, and then we have the King Shark figure, which is almost done being built. I'm so close. Ah, poor Superman. I'll get a review of them one of these days, don't you worry. I just can't keep having these interruptions. But they scale good here, even after being released from the ICU. That gunslinger Spawn is really frickin' tall. Anyways, he scales good next to these as well. Spawn is around the same size, but that gunslinger, whew. On Bloodsport's right, we have the McFarlane designed Batman figure, and on Bloodsport's left, we have the City Hunter NECA Predator, not the Ultimate version. Moving into a smaller scale, we have him next to 2 Marvel Legends, 2 Iron Men, 2 suits from 2 different movies, but they're just repaints. Here he is next to the Redeemer, which you should definitely go check out my review of. And there we have a nice little Spawn figure, a 90s nostalgia trip for you. Honor! Speaking of things I've just reviewed, here are Aang and Zuko from McFarlane Toys' little 5-inch line. Comparing him now with a figure that has a lot of weapons as well as a lot of other gadgets and gizmos, here he is next to the Grim Knight Batman. Remember when we would get weapons with our figures that require weapons? Posing time! Oh, yes, darling, get to my good side. Oh, no kids, darling, no kids. Once you do find a good and balanced pose for him, the ankles do a pretty good job, and he is mighty fun to pose, let me tell you. If you have any stockpile of weapons that you've collected from your past figures, whether they be Marvel Legends, NECA, any toy company, I think it'll look good, and he might hold a good chunk of them. It's hard to kind of find the right weapon that kind of fits his style, but once you do, I think it looks really good in the end. A word of caution that I did encounter, once you have him holding guns or anything like that, his hands do stretch out and he becomes harder to hold those swords, so keep that in mind. These last 2 poses are my favorite that I was able to create. I really love this. He looks so good and he's able to pose so well. And by the way, I love those Superman figures. I don't want y'all to think I hate them. That's why I'm dogging on them. I love those figures. But that is it. That's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you watched it all the way to the very end. If you could please leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below, and hit those post notifications, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, y'all, please stay safe out there.